very loud. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Bay Area Unitarian Universalist Church on this very chilly morning, or at least very chilly after yesterday. I had the air conditioner on yesterday, and here we are. I have a very quick, very brief announcement that next week we are going to be blessing some chalices. So if you have a chalice at home, bring it in, add it to the plethora of chalices we will have on offer for those of you who don't have a chalice at home. But I wanted to make sure everybody knew so they could bring it so we could bless all of our chalices together. Welcome, whoever you are, whomever you love, however you came to this place this morning in body, in mind, in heart, in spirit. Whether you're joining us in person, whether you're joining us online, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here, and we are glad that you are here and that we are here together. If this is your first time or your 500th time, you are welcome here. I have opening words for us this morning by Monica Jacobson Tennyson. What is it that calls you here? That calls you onward, that calls you inward, that leads you homeward? What is it that gives you the power to make that change, to ask that question, to take that journey? What is it that says you've done well, that asks you to learn more, that brings you to stillness, that holds you up in hard times? It is relationship, the beating heart of our faith. It begins when we share this hour, our truths, this air, our hearts. Come and let us worship together.
Good morning. I'm Verva Densmore, and I'll be your worship associate this morning. I'd like to welcome Beth Shepard forward to light our chalice this morning. We kindle our chalice flame this morning, awakening the fire of our ancestors in our hearts. Beacon of freedom held out to light the way, light of reason, illuminating the path, spark of courage igniting our spirits, aglow with hope for all we endeavor to do together. Holy flame of times past, brighten this present moment, that we may be the love that is our center and our foundation, both. Please rise in body or in spirit now for our opening hymn, number 298, Wake Now My Senses.
Yeah.
The work that we do together to build a world in which all of us are free and thriving is interrelated. When we ground our spirits, grow our skills, and act strategically for justice in deepening relationship with each other, we choose to side with love. To guide us in this work, we have our covenant. It contains the promises we repeat each Sunday, promises that keep us focused on our important work. Please join me now in saying our covenant. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship. Thus do we covenant with one another.
Our responsive reading on this Martin Luther King Sunday is number 584. Number 584 in the gray hymnal, A Network of Mutuality. Please join in with me on the italicized text. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. There are some things in our social system to which all of us ought to be maladjusted. Hatred and bitterness can never cure the disease of fear. Only love can do that. We must evolve for all human conflict a method which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation. The foundation of such a method is love. Before it is too late, we must narrow the gaping chasm between our proclamations of peace and our lowly deeds, which precipitate and perpetuate war. One day, we must come to see that peace is not merely a distant goal that we seek, but a means by which we arrive at that goal. We must pursue peaceful ends through peaceful means. We shall hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope.
Has anybody here seen my old friend Abraham? Can you tell me where he's gone? He freed a lot of people, but this is good, they die young. I just turned around and he's gone.
Has anybody here seen my old friend John? Can you tell me where he's gone? He freed a lot of people, but the good, they died young. I looked around and he's gone. Has anybody here seen my old friend Martin? Can you tell me where he's gone? He freed a lot of people, but it seems the good die young. I looked around and he's gone.
Didn't you love the things they stood for?
Didn't they try had to find some good for you and me, and we'll be free.
Someday soon, it's gonna be one day.
Has anybody here seen my old friend Bobby? Can you tell me where he's gone?
I thought I saw him walking up over the hill
With Abraham, Martin, and John.
Good morning. My name is Gloria Miller, and I am the Director of Religious Education here at Bay Area Unitarian Universalist Church, and my pronouns are she, her. Our story for all ages today is entitled Smoky Night by Eve Bunting and illustrations by David Diaz. Mama and I stand well back from our window looking down. I'm holding Jasmine, my cat. We don't have our lights on, though it's almost dark. People are rioting in the street below. Mama explains about rioting. It can happen when people get angry, they want to smash and destroy, and they don't care anymore what's right and what's wrong. Below us, they're smashing everything. Windows, cars, streetlights. They look angry, but they look happy too, I whisper. After a while, it's like a game, Mama said. 2 boys are carrying a TV from Morton's Appliances. It's hard for them because the TV is so heavy. Are they stealing it, I ask? Mama nods. Across the street from us, people are dragging cartons of cereal and sacks of rice from Kim's Market. My mama and I don't go in Mrs. Kim's Market, even though it's close. Mama says it's better if we buy from our own people. Mrs. Kim's cat and my cat fight all the time, and Mrs. Kim yells at Jasmine in words that I can't understand. She's yelling the same kind of words now at the people who are stealing her stuff, and they pay no attention. I move behind Mama. Will they come here? There's nothing here for them, Daniel. They finished with our street. Look, they're moving on. Our street is emptying, and one last man is staggering under a pile of clothes he's taken from the dry cleaners. The plastic bags are still on them. We'll sleep together tonight, Mama tells me. She makes me wash my face and brush my teeth, and I'm to take off my shoes, but leave on my clothes. She puts me next to the wall, and I hold Jasmine. I can't sleep, I say. Shh, Mama whispers, close your eyes. I do, and I guess I fall asleep. But the next thing I know, Mama's shaking me. Quick, Daniel, get up. There's a terrible smell of smoke. Someone is pounding on our apartment door. Fire! I'm suddenly awake. Where's Jasmine? I run to the closet. Sometimes Jasmine sleeps on a shelf. Mama's screaming at me. We can't wait. Jasmine's gone. Put on your shoes. Hurry. We rush down the stairs. Others crowd around us. The smoke makes me cough. Mr. Ramirez is in front of us carrying Lisa and the baby, who are both howling. Those people are hooligans, he shouts. Hooligans. Mrs. Ramirez is ahead of him. She's holding the cage with Loco, their parrot. Did you see Jasmine, Mr. Ramirez? He shakes his head, but I don't think he even heard me. Don't touch the railing, it's hot. Outside, the sky is hazy orange. Flames pounce up the side of our building. 3 fire engines scream to a stop, and firefighters jump out running, pulling hoses. I see our window where Mama and I had stood, and the fire hasn't reached it yet. Is everybody out? One firefighter yells. Far as we know, another says. Did you see a cat? I ask him. She's yellow, and maybe she's still in there. Probably not, son. Cats are plenty smart. She'll be long gone. A lady comes up to us. There's a shelter you can come to. Follow me. I'm crying because I'm not sure Jasmine is all that smart. What if she's still inside? The lady looks back at Mrs. Kim, who is trailing along behind us. Are you all right? She calls. Mrs. Kim nods. We're almost at the shelter, the lady tells her. The shelter is in a church hall, and there's cots to sleep on and a table with hot drinks. 2 men are making sandwiches, and I've never seen a bigger jar of mayo. We see people from our building, and they're talking about who did this and what's going to happen to us. It's a sad night, Mr. Jackson says. I ask him about Jasmine. He says he's pretty sure he saw her. She got out, Daniel. I hope he's not trying to make me feel better. Did you see my cat? Mrs. Kim asks. She's orange. The color of carrots, I say. And I almost add, and he's fat, me. But I don't. A girl gives me a mug of hot chocolate, and I wish it had more sugar. When I finish drinking, Mom says I should lie down. She's always making me lie down. People keep coming, some of them crying. One woman screams, and I hide under my blanket. And then Mama says, Daniel, look. And there's the firefighter who was at our building. He's standing in the open door with the smoky night behind him, and I see that he's carrying a cat under each arm. That was how Mr. Ramirez carried Lisa and the baby. The cats are howling too. Jasmine, the blanket's caught on my foot, and I'm trailing it. Oh, thank you for finding her. The other cat is mine, Mrs. Kim says. She takes her big, fat, mean old orange cat and holds him close. I'm kissing Jasmine, and she smells of smoke. Where was she? I asked the firefighter. The 2 of them were under the stairs, yowling and screeching. He takes a mug of hot chocolate, and I like him so much, I wish I had a whole barrel of sugar for his drink. The cats were together? Mrs. Kim asks. The firefighter nods. They were so scared they were holding paws. No, they weren't. What about our building? Mr. Ramirez asks. The fire's out. You'll be able to go back in a day or 2. A woman puts down a dish of milk. Here, kitty, kitty. And Jasmine jumps out of my arms. And Mrs. Kim puts her carrot-colored cat down too. And the cats drink from the same dish. Milk isn't that good for cats, but I don't say that either. Look at that. Mama is all amazed. I thought those 2 didn't like each other. They probably didn't know each other before, I explain, and now they do. Everyone looks at me, and it's suddenly very quiet. Did I say something wrong? I whisper to Mama. No, Daniel. Mama's tugging at her fingers the way she does when she's nervous. My name is Gina, she tells Mrs. Kim. Perhaps when things settle down, you and your cat will come over and share a dish of milk with us. I think that's pretty funny, but nobody laughs. Mrs. Kim picks up her cat and strokes him. She's staring at the wall, and maybe she's not going to say anything. But then she looks across at Mama. Thank you, she says. We'll come. Mama smiles. I reach out and I stroke Mrs. Kim's big old orange cat, too. Can you hear him, Mrs. Kim? He's purring. The keeper of our flame is Dax.
did move it for the service yesterday. Is it not back there? It's back there, but I can't get it. No, I'll just put it back here. All right, we got it. You know what else got moved yesterday and not put back are our red and white candles for community and peace. So I'm going to take a moment and fetch those. There. Because this week of all weeks, we need them both. I will begin with our candle of community. Yesterday, we celebrated the life of Louise Peck. These flowers we have today are in her honor. And this coming Friday, we will celebrate the life of Bob Handy. So as I light this candle, let us take a moment of silence for their families and friends, and for ourselves and the loss we too feel. I have also lit our candle for peace. This week there is the hope, the beginnings, the possibilities, very, very fragile, that a ceasefire may lead to greater peace in Israel and Gaza. So let's hold a moment of prayer for that too. May fragile hopes take root and grow into something more substantial. I invite you now to consider the hopes and the dreams and the anxieties and sorrows that you brought in here with you this morning. We bring all of the anxieties for next week and for last week in with us when we come on Sunday mornings, and we bring milestones and joys, all the things that make up the fabric of our lives. I invite you to come forward and light a candle for whatever it is that you have brought with you this morning. I invite you to share that in the form of a flame so that we may witness it and hold you and it. Please raise your hand if you would like a candle brought to you. Will you please join with me in prayer? Infinite mystery, in whom we live, move, and have our being. From you all things emerge, and to you all things return in their time. There is somewhere deep within us a creative spark that resonates when it encounters all the other creative sparks that fill our universe. And in those encounters, new worlds are born, a vast network of interwoven lives. All of us, and everyone we will ever meet, brings gifts as offerings to the web of life, and also their needs and longings. May we attune ourselves to that web, that network, leaning in to catch a hint of resonance, to discover those places where our gifts meet the needs of others and where their gifts meet our needs. May we always strengthen and refine the threads that bind us, knowing that they are the source of our power, as well as the means by which we are called to use our power in the service of love and justice. May we, with that power, build a better world than the one we received through the power of our love and the work of our hands. Amen, and may it be so. Please join now in our meditation song. Remain seated for it. I believe it is 1, 2, 3, Spirit of Life. That is right.
Our reading this morning is from Martin Luther King's speech, "Don't Sleep Through the Revolution." And this is an excerpt from the speech that he gave at our own 1966 General Assembly. An older order is passing away, and a new order is coming into being. The great question is, what do we do when we find ourselves in such a period? Certainly the church has a great responsibility, because when the church is true to its nature, it stands as a moral guardian of the community and of society. It has always been the role of the church to broaden horizons, to challenge the status quo, to question and break mores if necessary. I'm sure that we all agree that the church has a major role to play in this period of social change. I would like to suggest some of the things that the church must continually do in order to remain awake through the revolution. First, we are challenged to instill within the people of our congregations a world perspective. The world in which we live is geographically one. Now, more and more, we are challenged to make it one in terms of brotherhood. Modern people, through scientific genius, have been able to dwarf distance and place time in chains. Our planes have compressed into minutes, distances that once took weeks, even months. Through our scientific genius, we have made of this world a neighborhood. And now, through our moral and ethical commitment, we must make it a brotherhood. We must live together as brothers and sisters or we will perish together as fools. This is a fact of life. No individual can live alone. No nation can live alone. All life is interrelated, and somehow we are tied together. For some strange reason, I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be, and you can never be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be. This is the interrelated structure of all reality. John Donne caught it years ago and placed it in graphic terms. No man is an island entire unto himself. Every man is a piece of a continent, a part of the main. He goes on to say, any man's death diminishes me because I am involved in mankind. Therefore send not to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. This realization is absolutely necessary if we are to remain awake in this revolution. I talk a great deal about the need for a kind of divine discontent. And I always mention that there are certain technical words within every science which become stereotypes or cliches. Modern psychology has a word that has become common. It is the word maladjusted. There are things in our nation and in our world to which I am proud to become maladjusted. And I call upon you to be maladjusted, and all people of goodwill to be maladjusted to these things until the good society is realized. I never intend to adjust myself to segregation and discrimination. I never intend to become adjusted to religious bigotry. I never intend to adjust myself to economic conditions that will take necessities from the many and give luxuries to a few, and leave millions of people perishing on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of prosperity. I must honestly say, however, and however much criticism it brings, that I never intend to adjust myself to the madness of militarism and to the self-defeating effects of physical violence.
As Verva told you, that reading came from a lecture that King gave at our General Assembly. The Ware lecture is kind of a big keynote, and so every year we invite someone to come give a lecture at our gathering. That was in 1966 in Florida. The president of our denomination at that time was Dana Greeley. Dr. Greeley had been a pastor in the 1950s at Arlington Street Church in Boston, where King occasionally attended when he was a student at Boston University. He had his own reasons for not continuing to attend and becoming a Unitarian, especially since at that time he could certainly get a lot more done in other places and other denominations, and he had some theological differences with us, but he knew us well and he worked with us for many years. His lecture is specifically directed at us and at that time, Unitarian Universalism, since it had merged after the 50s. That lecture is over 50 years ago, and in many ways things are different, and the moment is different, and in many ways that lecture could have been delivered yesterday. A great deal of that lecture discusses the church's role in ending segregation and King's work in building a nonviolent movement, and there are so many topics in that lecture that deserve our full attention, possibly a whole year's worth of sermons. But I had to make some choices and narrow my focus, and what stands out to me in this precise moment is the call for the church to be a voice of interdependence and interconnection, to remind us that we do not live in isolation, but as part of a larger whole. In 1966, King was working on a campaign for housing in Chicago. He would later, after this, say that he experienced more violence and racism there than he ever did in the South. He was beginning to be a voice against the Vietnam War, and that would become a more active campaign for him in the years to follow, especially in 1967. He'd already begun corresponding with Thich Nhat Hanh, whom he would later nominate for a Nobel Peace Prize. He was also at this time supporting indigenous movements here in the United States as well as in other places, and providing assistance with organizing when asked to do so. King understood that liberation was not a solitary endeavor, or even the endeavor of a single small group. He understood that identity politics mattered as a starting point, not an end point. He understood that all our struggles are connected in deep ways, and that it's necessary to reach across gaps to build relationships of solidarity. It is necessary for us to show up for each other because we are stronger together than we are in isolation, and ultimately, we're fighting the same fight. I admit to a little bitterness of spirit that of all the days in the calendar, it is Martin Luther King Day that will align with the inauguration. And that bitterness of spirit also includes the knowledge that today, this very day here in Texas, is Confederate Heroes Day, because of course it is. I didn't really mean to punctuate that so dramatically. And I do think this is the heart of our national crisis. This desire to be something greater than we have been, alongside our complete inability to actually reckon with who we have been. We are entering a new era in our national story and turning the page into a new chapter. And this chapter carries with it so many echoes of all the things that have come before. Echoes of nationalism, echoes of religious upheaval, echoes of political upheaval, economic policies we thought long discredited, immigration policies from past centuries, the rise of a new Gilded Age. And I know that for the historians in the room, for many of us, it feels like many, many lessons have been just thrown out the window. And it may feel that history has no arc, let alone that we can bend it to anything useful. I think part of our crisis comes from the very idea that there could be separation, that there could ever be America first. This strange idea that sending money or resources somewhere else means there's less at home. The idea that there's a limited quantity of resources and that somehow folks are hungry because our government has sent aid abroad. I think that part of our crisis comes from that same scarcity mentality playing out in domestic politics, that immigrants take jobs or that those people receive welfare or any of these narratives, that somehow there isn't enough to go around and someone else is getting something they don't deserve. This is the mindset that frames our politics right now. This idea that the United States is somehow separate from the rest of the globe is a symptom. This idea that we are separate from each other within the United States is a symptom. And it's all an illusion. The idea that any of us stands alone is entirely an illusion. There is a narrative being sold here that the world is one of scarcity and competition, that only the strong and powerful survive, that people must fight and bring down others to get what they need. It is a narrative of fear and control, and ultimately it is a violent narrative. And there are those who would claim that this is the natural state of human beings, competitive and violent. And yet that's not what we see when we look around us. There are so many ways that we prove ourselves to be cooperative and caring beings. In the wake of storms and floods and fires across history and just last week, we see people taking care of each other because that's what we do. Human beings would rather rebuild than tear down. Both of these things are possible. There is a whole range of human behavior in us, but again and again, in the face of disaster, we see people joining together in care and in community. Cooperation is just as natural as competition, and perhaps more so. Cooperation has been key to our survival as a species, as communities, over and over again. And it is part of our work as church, as a church and as church, to amplify this message, to remind ourselves that we are bound together, that we are cooperative more than we are competitive. I think in the months and possibly years ahead, there will be classic divide and conquer tactics where resources are withheld from some and given to others in an attempt to solidify power and control. And part of the role of the church and of us within the church is to just refuse to fall for it. We have to assert again and again that we are bound together and that we know that we are bound together, that we are aware we share a common destiny and that we will support and take care of each other, not just out of a sense of justice or duty, but out of caring, loving relationship. We must remember that identity politics opens our eyes to our own stories, and that's a first step. And from there, we open ourselves to the stories of others and understand ourselves as connected and part of larger systems. In the immediate aftermath of the election, I said, slow down. I said, breathe. I said, take care of ourselves and turn inward for just a little bit. And this is the outward turn. Day one is right in front of us, and we have been promised a slew of actions and policies that go against our principles and values, collectively and individually. Perhaps now that so many of those things are happening simultaneously and from the same sources, more people will be able to understand them as growing from the same root, embedded in this worldview of competitive violence. And I think it should be obvious when those things arise together and suddenly, and when they have to be enforced, that they're not natural, that they're not just the way things are, and that they are connected to each other as well. The plan to demolish the Department of Education isn't different from deportation plans or the plan to defund social safety nets. These are all one plan, one big mess with many facets but one core. Because there are so many facets and so many items on the agenda, it will be impossible to keep up, let alone act effectively at times. And I fear it will be too easy to become adjusted to a new normal, or to be overwhelmed and turn away, or, and maybe this one is my personal response to this sort of thing, is to try too hard to keep track of all the things and then end up not actually doing very much. And we must remember that the fact that these things are so big in their scope and so interwoven does actually mean that whatever threads we grasp will begin to unravel the whole. We have to trust that every crack we make will matter, especially to the people who are immediately helped by whatever we take up to be our causes. In the days ahead, we will need to remember that at least for a time, the machinery of government is not in our hands and we have to do it ourselves, but that we can do it ourselves. We've done it before, we can do it again. We simply have to choose to act. It might not be easy to pick the right thing and take the right step. It's not easy, but it is simple. We must act. And I firmly believe that the best way to figure out that first right step, how to help, what to do, how to be effective, is to be fully embedded in relationships with our friends and our neighbors and our communities. Not for charity, but to enter a space of mutual aid and solidarity. When Martin Luther King and his colleagues in the South put out a call for support in Selma, it rippled through Unitarian Universalist networks. There's a lot of things we haven't done well in our history. This is one we did really right. Because King had gone to seminary in Boston, and because he had attended Arlington Street Church, he had met and mingled with so many Unitarian ministers. And his colleagues also had connections with Unitarians and Universalists and Unitarian Universalists in their own right. This was a massive collegial network. So plenty of folks went south because it was the right thing to do. But a lot of the people who went down to Selma did so because a friend picked up the phone and called them, or a friend of a friend, or someone in the congregation knew someone, etc. For all that our participation at Selma arose out of our religious convictions, arose from our faith, it also arose from our relationships. People knew King. People knew other members of SNCC and the SCLC. And when those connections, when that network was leveraged, people knew other UU colleagues who were calling, moving down the line. The moral clarity of that moment came at least in part from relationships of mutual respect among the organizers and the people calling and working the phone lines. We are not going to be on the other end of an important phone call if we're not in relationship with our communities and with each other. And I say our communities plural because the fabric of this community is woven from all those threads we bring in from outside, incorporating our neighborhoods, our cities, our families, the entire southern swath of this side of town. And any one of those threads might end up being the one we need to follow at some point in the near future. As we move through the doubt and uncertainty ahead of us, we do know it is time for action. We've breathed through a lot of our anxiety, we've pulled ourselves together, and we're going to need to keep doing that, probably a lot, because we're going to need to be prepared to help however we can, wherever we can. And right now we can't predict where those places will be. We can predict some of them, we can guess, but we can't be sure which one is ours until it lands in front of us. So build your connections to the people around you, deepen your networks, embed yourself fully in your own individual worlds, and then bring that here to this place to add to our whole. Remember always that we have collective power, and that our power is born out of our certain knowledge that we are part of something greater than ourselves, that we are bound together in a shared history and a shared future. And I also call upon all of us to proclaim this truth to others through words and deeds, so that others in our lives also remember that they are not alone and that they have power. We can and we will take care of each other because it's what we were made to do. Amen, and may it be so. Friends, this church is built by our hands, by our funds, and by our work. Now the offering, may it be generously given, and it will be received in gratitude.
Please join me now in blessing our offering. This gift from the abundance of my life blesses me, our ministries, and the world. It's now time for our announcements. And you know, the announcements are a chance to figure out where you can get connected and make new friends. And one of the things I want to tell you about is the new UU class beginning on February 1st. And you can, let's see, where's Julie? Julie Blanford is over here, and after the service, see her and she'll give you all the details. But it starts on February 1st. It's going to be for 4 Saturdays. The first one will be with Katie McQuade-Loukas present, so that's going to be a treat. And whether you're new to the church or you just want a refresher course, it's a great place to connect with people. I'll tell you, 20 years ago, I made friends in my new UU class that are still my good friends. So it's a wonderful opportunity to learn about the church and to make new friends. And now our other announcements. Due to the possibility of inclement weather, the speaker originally scheduled for Tuesday, January 21st, Dr. Carol Archer, will be speaking on January 28th. And the presentation that was supposed to be on January 28th, The Dangers of Fentanyl, will be moved to another day, so just watch for that announcement. Join us Wednesday, January 22nd at 5:45 for a warm and welcoming dinner at the church. Enjoy a variety of dishes, including kid-friendly favorites, hearty omnivore options, delicious vegetarian and vegan choices. There's something for everyone. Bring your family and friends, and we look forward to seeing you there. Young Adult Night is coming back on January 25th from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., and this month it'll be a game night. Bring your favorite game and feel free to bring a friend. For questions, please contact the church office at 281-488-2001. Hope to see you there. Next Sunday after the church, I'm going to try not to be sad. I'm sad. We are going to be bidding farewell to Tom and Claire Zimmerman, and with a wonderful party. So we want to give them our love and our well wishes as they prepare to move to North Carolina. Bring a dish to share and enjoy an afternoon filled with memories, laughter, and fellowship. Even if you don't know Tom and Claire, we'd love for you to join us in celebrating their journey. A special going away gift has been created, a canvas featuring our chalice. Everyone is welcome to add a personal message for Claire and Tom. It's located in the parlor today, or you can stop by the office any day this week and add your wishes. And after today's service, members and friends are invited to join us in Cockrell Hall to mingle over coffee and enjoy snacks. If another day you would like to contribute to snacks and assist with setup, please sign up on the sheet that's available in Cockrell Hall. Let's come together and share quality time and community. Today at 12:30, you're invited to the UU Silent Book Club in the youth room. This is a perfect opportunity to relax, reset, and connect. We'll start with a light lunch for 30 minutes, followed by an hour of quiet reading, and during the final 30 minutes, we'll share book recommendations and discuss what we're reading. Bring your favorite book, beverage, and any cozy items like a yoga mat or pillow for added comfort. Interested in becoming a greeter? Everybody knows how wonderful it is to walk in with our terrific greeters. You have an opportunity to learn how to be one. There's going to be greeter training today in the sanctuary at 12:30 p.m. As a greeter, you'll play a vital role in welcoming newcomers, guiding them to the sanctuary and introducing them to other members. A warm first impression can make all the difference. Training is simple, and we'd love to have you join us there. And finally, stay connected with all the latest happenings at BAUUC by subscribing to our weekly newsletter. It is sent out every Tuesday, and it's packed with news and details about what's happening in our community. Sign up today using the QR code on the screen or by visiting BAUUC.org. Don't miss out. And now, Please rise in body or in spirit for our closing hymn, number 131, Love Will Guide Us.
Friends, remain maladjusted in these times. If you have found peace here, bring it out into a world that needs it. If you have found love here, bring it out to a world that needs it. And then go find it out there and bring it back here. Amen, and go in peace.